Hi. This week we're kind of talking about where we feel truth lies, or if we feel that if truth is something that's like within us. Um, I pulled a quote from the readings, that said, but at its core, transcendentalism. Um, the reading for this week is a philosophical claim about where truth is found. It argues that human beings have direct access to moral and spiritual insights through their own inner life and through their experience of nature. I kind of agree with that, where how like it's both kind of a part of us that existed before. I feel like this relates a lot to what we talked about last week, where, kind of like what your truth is. So I think I agree with Kent's idea more about what truth is, where we're kind of like shaped through reality, I guess, more so than we're kind of born with this truth, and there's like this truth in the back of our mind. I did think his point where we, get rid of religion and all those other like normities that people are used to, and kind of how it shapes who we are. While I understand, his point where Emerson came to the conclusions that we are kind of like one with nature, and that we kind of are nature. I suppose I don't really agree with that. I kind of have a weird opinion where I kind of feel like human beings kind of like not deserve the planet, but are in a way like the earth is like ours, but in that same sense it's like our responsibility to like save ecosystems and so on and so forth. And I think it's important to keep species alive and so on, but I really do think that the only things that really matter in the world, I suppose, are like how close we can get to the average person living like an okay, life where, no one's hungry and everyone has, a stable life. When I was younger, I guess I assumed that, it would be kind of like a capitalist, everybody's working, everybody's producing something, but, everybody's, what they're producing is giving them a life that they can live comfortably. But after a little bit of these readings and some of another class I have that I'm taking over the summer, I kind of looked at like different cultures and throughout time how like people live their lives differently. So I kind of maybe have like the truth of what like what we're supposed to be building towards as a society. And then one quote that also stood out to me was, if great men are just ordinary men who trusted their own minds, then the barriers between ordinary and extraordinary isn't talent or status, but the willingness to think for yourself. I don't necessarily, I feel like a lot of the philosophers we looked at kind of have their own truth of what they feel like reality is. I just feel like with every philosophical debate, there's for and against, and there could be an argument for both. Kind of like God's existence, where like you can't really prove one or the other, because I guess there's no real answer. While I agree that we are influenced by the things. He also, I feel like, grew up religiously, so I don't feel like those kinds of things always affect everyone the same as deeply. Oh, one point I wanted to bring up real quick, I am going over time, was the second American Revolution. I'm taking another class of U.S. history right now, and in the class we were talking last week about just the first American Revolutionary War, and I guess it brought like a new philosophy to, or like kind of like thought process of like, when are you, there's like the independence, and then there's the independence from the influence, which I thought was pretty interesting, I suppose. 6 minutes. But yeah, I really think that truth in like how we live our lives, I feel like Emerson believed that there was like a deep truth that everyone has that like we don't access because we're like afraid of social norms. But I suppose I personally live my life how I want, I suppose, without second guessing my thoughts too much. But yeah, thank you.